Morning. Today I'm going to discuss an issue that is close to many Canadians' hearts, the dramatic increase in food prices over the last few years. There are a number of factors that contribute to these rising food prices, one of which I think many of us know, climate change. Because of the adverse weather conditions, such as droughts, floods, etc., there has been a disruption of global food production. And Canada, because we are cold so many months of the year, we have to import a great deal of our food, and so we're particularly vulnerable to these disruptions. There's also, of course, labor costs, increasing labor costs, which are we would expect, and these are in areas of farming, food processing, retail sectors. These have led to higher expenses, and again, this is one that is not unexpected given inflation. Um, these higher costs for producers and those who sell these items are frequently passed on to us, the consumers. There's also, of course, the exchange rate in dollars, and because we import a great deal of our food from the United States, although this will change, and I will get into that in a minute. Um, the Canadian dollar, which is so much lower than the US dollar, affects the cost of imported foods, and that weaker Canadian dollar makes it more expensive to purchase food. Now, like I said, we have been importing a lot of our food from the United States with the threat of tariffs that the Canadian government is looking outside of the United States for food products, for instance, to China. And that may actually, well, it may harm the United States, and they got themselves into this, it's going to actually benefit us. So the fact that we are diversifying here in Canada is a very good thing. Uh, Now, of course, there's also supply chain disruption. One of those will be if the tariffs are imposed. In fact, Canadians are already not purchasing American foods. We're doing Canada first. We are buying Canadian. So that will affect supply chains, but also there are issues like pandemics, geopolitical tensions. These have all disrupted the supply chains and have increased the cost of transportation, the logistics of the situation. So again, by diversifying, we may actually help this problem. So how does that impact us, we Canadians, everyday Canadians? Well, a report from December 2024 indicated that Canadian families would likely spend up to $801 more in 2025. Then, of course, there's the added issue of the imposition of potential tariffs from Donald Trump, and that increases it quite a bit more. I've read different numbers, but seems to be around, for a family of four, for example, 17 to 1900 more a year. And it's going this is going to most impact those of us who are lower or middle income. So we're the ones that are ultimately going to be paying these costs. We're the ones who can't afford it. Of course, food insecurity has increased quite dramatically. As of 2024, 8.7 million Canadians reported living in food insecure environments. And this highlights the growing concern for families and individuals accessing affordable and nutritious food. It is a very serious issue. And of course, we have demographic disparities. Younger adults and households with children reported greater difficulty in meeting day-to-day expenses. Um, in spring of 2024, 55% of individuals aged 25 to 44 and 55% of households with children indicated that they were experiencing significant financial strain with these increased costs. What are some things we can do? Well, we can alter our shopping habits, and Canadians are already doing that. On the one hand, we're buying more Canadian, and at first it seems more expensive, but if we increase the demand for Canadian products, There'll be more, we will decrease the costs. That's the way it works. So we're actually doing a really positive thing, not just Canadian nationalism, but for our very basic costs. We can also look at community support initiatives. So things like community gardens, food cooperatives, mutual aid networks, uh, uh, food banks. And food banks are changing the way they operate. They're no longer kind of handing you a basket. They're letting you look for the things you actually use, you actually need. Look at things like government assistance. And I've talked about the UBI before. It, that would be a huge answer to this, but it's unlikely to happen in the near future. What we can look at is, for example, the Canadian government looking at things like when they removed the tax for a couple of months. It's just about to end, I believe, on food products and children's products. So doing things to alleviate these high costs. We can also look at the way we budget. For those who are able to are still engaging in non-necessities, reducing those. For those of us who are already down to the bare bones, it's not so easy. But for folks who have a little bit of room to move, maybe looking at your spending habits and reducing unnecessary costs. There has been an issue, an increasing sentiment that about grocers engaging in price fixing and pushing increased costs, and there are some concerns about retail practices. We know, for instance, that Loblaws and their the many stores that they own have engaged in inflationary practices, price fixing activities meant to increase their profits and decrease our ability to purchase healthy foods. What is important here is that food be available to all Canadian citizens, and this is becoming increasingly questionable because of all of the things I just described. It is something we all need to work at, because in a country like Canada, no one should go hungry. And with that, I say, if you enjoyed this, please share and like, please subscribe, uh, and please remember, to be senior is to be proud. Hugs.